They say that quiet people are always dangerous. So today we're talking about the psychology of people who don't talk too much and why everything you think you know about silence is probably wrong. Let me tell you something. I've spent most of my life watching people misunderstand quiet individuals. They see someone sitting silently at a party and immediately think dangerous, mysterious, or plotting something. But here's the truth that most people miss. Quiet people aren't dangerous. They're just operating on a completely different wavelength than everyone else. The first thing you need to understand is that quiet doesn't always mean shy. This is where most people get it wrong. Research shows there's a massive difference between being quiet by choice and being quiet because you're scared. Some people are silent because they're introverts who genuinely prefer less stimulation. Others are shy. They want to talk, but fear and judgment hold them back. These are two completely different psychological states, but society lumps them together and labels both as awkward. But here's where it gets really interesting. For many quiet people, silence is actually a power move. While everyone else is busy talking, they're watching, they're observing, they're collecting data. Think about it. When you're constantly running your mouth, you miss everything happening around you. But when you're quiet, you notice everything. I'll give you an example. Walk into any room with a quiet person and they've already mapped out the entire social landscape. They know who's uncomfortable, who's faking confidence, who's genuine, and who's full of it. They pick up on body language, tone shifts, and energy in ways that talkative people simply can't because they're too busy performing. Research shows that quiet people have extraordinarily high observation skills. They're reading micro-expressions, a slight jaw clench, a forced smile, the way someone's eyes dart toward the exit. These aren't things you notice when you're dominating the conversation. This is information you only gather when you're paying attention. And that information, that's power. Here's another thing people don't realize. Quiet people think deeply before speaking. Most people's brains work like this. Thought appears, mouth opens, words come out. But quiet people, their process is completely different. They analyze what they want to say, rehearse it mentally, consider how it might be received, then decide if it's even worth saying. By the time they speak, their words have been through multiple rounds of internal editing. This is also why quiet people absolutely hate small talk. You know that painful conversation about the weather, the "how was your weekend" exchange where nobody actually cares about the answer? Quiet people see right through it. If a topic has no depth, no substance, no real meaning, they're simply not engaging. They'd rather sit in silence than waste energy on surface-level nonsense. But put them in a conversation about something meaningful, something with actual depth, they come alive. They'll talk your ear off about philosophy, psychology, their creative projects, or anything that genuinely matters to them. It's not that they can't talk, they just refuse to talk about nothing. And here's something fascinating. Quiet people conserve social energy like it's a limited resource, because for them, it actually is. Talking drains them in ways that most people can't comprehend. Every social interaction has a cost, so they speak only when it's necessary, only when it adds value, only when the conversation is worth the energy expenditure. Now, society loves to confuse quietness with weakness or lack of confidence, but that's completely backward. Many quiet people are incredibly confident internally. They just don't feel the need to perform socially. Their silence isn't insecurity, it's self-control. They don't need external validation. They don't need to be the loudest person in the room to feel good about themselves. Here's something else that surprises people. Quiet individuals talk a lot more around people they trust. Their personality doesn't just magically unlock. It opens slowly, carefully, and only when they feel completely safe. You might know someone from months and think they're reserved, and then suddenly you're in their inner circle and they're wild, funny, and completely different. They didn't change, they just finally felt comfortable enough to show you who they really are. And there's this interesting phenomenon where quiet people attract oversharers. Ever notice how people just start spilling their deepest secrets to the quiet person in the group? That's not an accident. Quiet people create this calm, non-judgmental presence that makes others feel safe to talk. They're not interrupting, they're not steering the conversation back to themselves, they're just there, listening, and that's rare enough that people crave it. Quiet people also strategically avoid drama. While everyone else is getting pulled into arguments, arguments, conflicts, and emotional chaos, quiet people choose silence as a shield. They recognize that most drama isn't worth engaging with. They see it, they understand it, and they consciously decide not to participate. It's not that they're scared of conflict, they just value their peace more than they value being right. Here's the beautiful part that most people never see. Still waters run deep. That quiet person sitting in the corner, they might have an entire universe inside their head. Rich inner worlds, complex ideas, creative projects they're working on in silence. Just because they're not broadcasting their thoughts doesn't mean those thoughts don't exist. The truth is, we live in a world that mistakes volume for value. We assume the person talking the most must have the most to say. We confuse confidence with loudness, but research consistently shows there's zero correlation between how much someone talks and how intelligent or insightful they actually are. So the next time you meet a quiet person, don't mistake their silence for weakness, danger, or disinterest. Understand that they're probably operating at a level of awareness that most people never reach. They're watching, processing, understanding, and when they do finally speak, you'd better listen because they don't waste words on things that don't matter. Quiet people aren't the problem, a world that can't appreciate silence.